in boundaries of a state, you will have to amend Schedule 1 and Schedule 4. And Schedule 4 relates with the allocation of seats of a state into Rajya Sabha or Council of a State. As you know, that Rajya Sabha represents states. And so, whenever the boundaries of a state or two states are changed, hello, hello, hello,
hello sir.
आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, sir.
Yes sir.
Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes sir.
Whenever you alter the boundary of a state of Indian Union, you will have to amend the Schedule 1 and Schedule 4. Because Schedule 1 relates with the territory of India and Schedule 4 relate with the allocation of seats of each state into Rajya Sabha. Now students, another component of my lecture will be about the exclusive economic zone. What does this mean? And thereafter territorial sea, union territory, what is its meaning in our constitution? What is the meaning of acquired territories? What do you mean by Schedule 5 and Schedule 6? And then finally, the composition of states during British period, because I will also cover today the reorganization of states after we got independence. So we will cover the contour or the composition of states of Indian Union during the British period, and thereafter when we got independence, what changes occurred on the front of reorganization, so that people should be satisfied on the basis of language and cultural homogeneity. So let us start now. Any point from anybody?
सर शेड्यूल 4 में जो आपने बताया कि राज्यसभा का एलोकेशन होगा स्टेट में, तो काउंसिल ऑफ सर तो वो लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल के लिए भी होगा क्या सर?
I could not understand your point. Tell me again. You see, there is Rajya Sabha, there is a seat allocation for every state of India, because Rajya Sabha basically represents the wishes of the states. Now, the representation is on the basis of the population of the concerning state, with the weightage given to some smaller states. Now it is just in contrast with the allocation in America, United States of America, where what we find that in Senate, the total strength of Senate is 100. And every state in America, there are 50 states there, and every state of America, irrespective of their size, have been given only 2 seats in Senate. You can see that in area or in population, California is the biggest state of America, United States of America. But its representation in Senate is only 2. 2 senators are there from California. So every unit in America has been given representation of 2 members, irrespective of the size of that unit, I mean state or the population. But in our constitution, the representation in Rajya Sabha is based upon the population of the concerning state. For example, UP is the largest state in terms of population, and it has got 31 seats, Rajya Sabha seat. Similarly, MP has got 11 Rajya Sabha seats. Because, so what we see, that the population criteria is the main criteria for the allocation of seats of every state in Rajya Sabha. Are you clear now?
Yes, sir.
Any point? Any doubt? I would
No, sir.
like to satisfy your doubt, and this is my first and foremost duty. You tell me, ask me question.
Sir, no doubt.
Okay, thank you. Now, students, Article 1, what it says? That India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Here, the term is union of state. What does this imply? It implies that India, though it is made of several units, several states, but it is not a federation in a strict sense of the term, like America, where the 13 colonies or 13 states before their independence, they came together, they fought against the leadership of George Washington, against the British Army, headed by Lord Cornwallis, the same Lord Cornwallis who started permanent settlement in 1793 in India. And thereafter, they composed a central government by an agreement. And secondly, they have the right to secede from the union. And you might have seen that in 1865, the Civil War broke out on the issue of slavery. Although that Civil War was crushed, but the units have got the right. But in our terms, in our constitution, what we see? That the units, I mean states, have no right to secede from the union government. Number one. Number two, the union government, the union has not been made out of any agreement between units and central government. That's why the word federation has not been included in our constitution. Secondly, our constitution is not a confederation. Students, you might be knowing what is the difference between federation and confederation. Tell me if anybody knows it. Kanishka, do you know the meaning of the term confederation?
No, sir.
Anybody? Confederation means the unity of independent units coming together of different independent units for achieving the common goal. In the USA, what do you find? That 13 colonies came together to fight against Britishers. And that was the common goal. And in spite of uniting among themselves, they also kept maximum independence. And that is called confederation. So our constitution did not postulate confederation nor federation in the strict sense of the term, but it is a union of a state where our constitution follows the Canadian pattern of constitution. Now, friends, Article 1 says that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of a state, that the states and territories thereof shall be as specified in the first schedule. Third, the territory of India shall comprise the territories of a state, the union territories specified in the first schedule, and such other territories as may be acquired. Second article relates with the admission or establishment of new state, and third article relates with the formation of new state and alteration of areas, boundaries, and names of existing states. As you know, Parliament may by law form a new state by separation of territory from any state, or by uniting two or more states or parts of a state, or by uniting any territory to any part of any state. Second, increase the area of any state, diminish the area of any state, alter the name of the state. And finally, under Article 4, laws made under Article 2 and 3 to provide for the amendment of the first and fourth schedule. As I have already told you, that whenever there is alteration of boundary or the changing of names or merging of two states, amendment will have to be done in schedule number 1 and schedule number 4. And there is another important feature of our Constitution. And what is this? This article from 1 to 4 doesn't cover under the amendment rules as enshrined in our Constitution under Article 368. What does this mean? It means that these changes under Article 1 to 4, which relates to the changes of the boundaries or merger or alteration, all these can be done by simple majority. There is no need of amendment of the Constitution. Number one. Number two, any changes in the boundaries or merger must not be produced before Parliament directly, but that proposal has to be sent to the President of India. President of India can take the views of the concerning state whose boundaries, whose name, whose identity is to be affected by the new amendment, and the concerning state assemblies can express their views. But students, as you know, the president is not bound to accept those views. He may accept, he may not accept, or he will put the proposal thereof before the Parliament, and Parliament, if satisfied, can pass the resolution by simple majority, and then amendment can be effected. This is the simple method in our Constitution to change the boundary of a state, to change the name, for the merger of a state, for the creation of new state. But students, as you know, that in United States of America, you cannot do this. There is no simple thing like what we find in our Constitution. In America, Congress has no power to change the boundary of a particular state or merge one state with another. Only if the concerning state desires so, the Congress can do it. And even the amendment can be done by 3/4 majority. The proposal has to come from the affected state that we want to merge from such a state, or we want that our boundaries has to be altered. This means that initiative has to come from the affected state, and then Congress will pass the resolution by 3/4 majority, not 2/3 as we find in our Constitution. So in America, there very much rigidity as far as the creation of new states are concerned. Any point from anybody?
No, sir.
Thank you. Now I'm switching over to new terminology. I have written this one, exclusive economic zone. Can anybody tell me what does this mean? Exclusive economic zone. An exclusive economic zone, EEZ, is a sea zone prescribed by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas, over which a state has special rights over the exploration and use of marine resources, including energy production from water and wind. It stretches from the baseline or to 200 nautical miles or 370 kilometers from its coast. So, you see, in our country, Bombay High is situated in Arabian Sea, and it is 160 kilometers away from the mainland from the coast of India, the mainland coast of India, and where we are doing extraction of petroleum products. So this area of sea, which is up to 370 kilometers from the baseline of the coast, these areas are called the exclusive economic zone, where the concerning state has special rights for the exploration, use of marine resources, including energy production, as we are doing in the Krishna Basin areas, Bombay High areas, Kaveri Delta areas. All these are exclusive economic zone. And students, now what is the difference between territorial sea and exclusive economic zone? What is the difference between territorial sea and exclusive economic zone? You see, under territorial sea, the concerning state has full sovereignty over the waters, whereas in the second, it has merely the sovereign right to exploit the resources below the surface of the sea. And what is the length of this territorial sea? It is 12 nautical miles from the baseline of the coast of a country. So up to 12 nautical miles, every country has the sovereign right to exploit the resources. It has right not to allow any foreign ships into those areas, because the sovereignty of that state extends up to 12 nautical miles in the sea or ocean. Am I clear now? Any point from your side, Kanishka?
No, sir.
Abhishek?
No, sir.
Under 40th amendment, In 1976, during the regime of Srimati Indira Gandhi, a new article under 297 was inserted into our constitution to vest in Union of India all lands, minerals and other things of value underlying the ocean within the territorial waters or exclusive economic zones, the Territorial Waters, Continental Self-Exclusive Economic Zones and Other Maritime Zones Act 1976 was enacted by the Indian government to notify the sovereign rights on these areas for dealing with other countries. So, in 1976, an amendment was done to express the sovereignty of Indian government over those territories which are exclusive economic zone or territorial sea or continental shelf. So these were called maritime zones. Now, what is the meaning of union territory and how it is different from states? Abhishek, have you any clue? Hello?
Yes, sir. So,
have you any clue? Yes, tell me.
Sir, Union territory is directly administered or controlled by the center, and about the state, these are under the control of federal government, or we can say state government.
Or anything more? In which part of the constitution union territory has been described? How many union territories are there?
8.
Are today in our constitution?
8 union territory, 28 states.
So 8 territories.
Yes. And what is difference between a state and union UT?
So state has its own government while union territories are governed by the central government.
Union territory is also administered by lieutenant governor or administrator. So this is not the clear-cut definition.
So this is directly under the control of central government, or we can say under the president.
Yes. You see, under part 8, you just jot down there. Under part 8 of the constitution, the administration of union territory has been described. Now there are 8 union territories, and these are Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Chandigarh, Goa, Daman, Diu, and Dadra Nagar Haveli, because Dadra Nagar Haveli has also been merged into Daman and Diu, and then Delhi, and then Pondicherry, which is called Puducherry, and then Ladakh, and then J&K, Jammu and Kashmir. Tell me more. Jammu Kashmir, second Ladakh, third Chandigarh, fourth Delhi, fifth Lakshadweep, sixth Andaman Nicobar, seventh Puducherry, and eighth Daman and Diu. Daman, Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, because Dadra and Nagar Haveli, which was earlier a union territory, was merged into Daman and Diu. So there are 8 UTs in our constitution now, and the provision for UT has been described in part 8 of our constitution. Under 239, Article 239(1), provide that every union territory shall be administered by the president acting to such extent as he thinks fit, through an administrator to be appointed by him with such designation as he may specify. Instead of appointing an administrator from outside, the president may appoint the governor of a state as the administrator of adjoining UT. So it is clear that suppose Lakshadweep has an administrator has to be appointed for Lakshadweep, and government of India is not interested. So what it will do, that the governor of Kerala or governor of Bombay, nearby areas, he will be also given the charge of the administrator of Lakshadweep, and in so doing, the governor will not be answerable to his council of ministers in matters relating to Lakshadweep. Understand my point? So he will be independent in discharging the function of the administration of Lakshadweep. Am I clear? And secondly, the difference is that UT is directly governed by the President of India through his representative. So his position in UT is akin to the position of a governor of a state. Number one. Number two, all laws passed by the concerning legislature of UT. You might be knowing that there are two UTs, Delhi and Puducherry, where there is a legislature. And passed by the legislature, that resolution is sent to the lieutenant governor or the administrator of that UT, and then it has to be sent to president for the confirmation. Number one. And where there is no legislature, parliament has exclusive power to make laws relating to the union territories. Third difference is what we see in 7th schedule. There is a clear-cut division of subjects. There are union list, concurrent list, and a state list. State legislatures have exclusive right to legislate on the subject covered under a state list. Similarly, union government has exclusive right to legislate on the subject covered under union list. But in matters of union territories, what we find? There is no division of subject like the state. So union territories are for all purposes under the direct rule of the President of India. When I say President of India, it means the Prime Minister headed by the Council of Ministers.
So does Jammu and Kashmir having legislature?
Yes. Government of India has kept intact for legislature. I have forgotten it. So just include it. But in case of Ladakh, there is no legislature and only one administrator, only the administrator appointed by the central government will administer the governance of Ladakh. In the case of High Court, it may be that a union territory may have a separate High Court, or a union territory may have its jurisdiction may be merged with the nearby High Court. For example, Delhi has a separate High Court, but in matters related to Andaman and Nicobar, Calcutta High Court has given the jurisdiction to decide the case. And similarly, the Kerala High Court has been given jurisdiction over Lakshadweep. Similarly, Bombay High Court has been given jurisdiction over Daman and Diu. So this kind of arrangement has been made. Now, students, what is the meaning of acquired territory? Can anybody tell me? There are no separate provision in the constitution relating to the administration of acquired territories, but the provision relating to union territories will extend by virtue of the definition. You see that union government acquires some territory, or it may give some territory to the neighboring country. There may be a situation that an island has emerged, like New Moor Island in Bay of Bengal, or there are several islands which have emerged in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. And I have already spoken about it in the class of geography. So, suppose an island has emerged in the Bay of Bengal, in the vicinity of the state of Odisha. In that case, what will happen? The government of India, the union government, jurisdiction will extend over that island, which has emerged recently in Bay of Bengal, irrespective of the fact that it is just nearer to or in the vicinity of the Odisha state. And the administration of that acquired land will be done according to the provision of union territory. And government of India will appoint an administrator or lieutenant governor to see the governance of those areas. Suppose government of India acquires some areas, or suppose government of India frees the occupied Kashmir, now under Pakistan, by war. What will happen? Government of India will take over those areas for the time being and will administer those areas until or unless Parliament decide that those areas which have been taken over, since in terms of contiguity, it has been historically the part of Jammu Kashmir, so it should be merged with the existing Jammu Kashmir. It may be possible. But until Parliament approves this, Government of India will have exclusive right over the acquired territories won in war. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Any point from anybody? Students, now I am going to switch over to Schedule 5. What do you mean by Schedule 5 and Schedule 6? Yesterday I told you that ours is a symmetrical federation. What does this mean? It means that our constitution makers did not follow the strict rules of federation. When I say a strict rule of federation, what does this mean? The excellent example is of America, where there is a central government. Certain powers has been bestowed upon them. Suppose 18 subjects has been given to them, to the central government, and rest have been kept by the units, 50 states. And the power of central government and state government is clearly defined. An indestructible union made of indestructible units. This is the fine example of federation. But in our country, what we find? Instead of two sets of government at the center and state level, there are also the third level of government working at the district level, like municipal administration of municipal corporation and Jila Panchayat, Gram Panchayat, village Panchayat, by the amendment of 73rd and 74th. Similarly, there are other provisions in the Constitution. And what are those? The inclusion of 5th schedule for tribal areas in India, except northeastern areas, and for northeastern areas, there is a 6th schedule. And what do you mean? What does this mean? You see, the tribals have their own culture, they have their own identity. So our constitution makers wanted that, in spite of the fact that they have been put in the mainstream of politics, their identity should not be merged. Their culture should be kept intact. They should be kept autonomous. And for that purpose, Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 has been inserted or incorporated in our constitution. And students, I am just giving you a small detail about the 5th schedule. 5th schedule is working in central India or those areas which are inhabited by tribals in large numbers, like MP, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, or any other state where the population of tribals are in large number. And what are its specific feature? The 5th schedule says that the executive power of the state extends to the scheduled areas. Number 2, governor of this state has to submit the report to the president regarding the administration of such areas on the annual basis or whenever required to do so. 3rd, tribal advisory councils has to be constituted to advise the government on matters related to the welfare and advancement of scheduled tribes, and these matters are those which may have been referred to the council by the governor. Again, the governor is authorized to direct the state government not to apply in the scheduled areas any act of parliament or state legislature or apply it subject to exception or modification. Again, the governor is authorized to make regulation to prohibit or restrict transfer of land by or among the members of scheduled tribes, to regulate the allotment of land and the business of money lending. All such regulations made by the governor must have the assent of president. And the president may appoint a commission to report on the administration of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes in the state, as it was obligatory to appoint such commission at the end of first 10 years of the implementation of the constitution. The first commission was appointed in 1960. The commission submitted its report in 1961. And student, as you know, that in tribal dominated areas of Jhabua Alirajpur, what we find? That the land, the transfer of land cannot be done without the consent of the collector of that district. Why? Because in British period, there was large number of alienation of land from tribal to non-tribals. And this led to several revolts in British India, and I have already narrated those tribal revolts in history classes. So see, certain safeguards have been provided by 5th schedule in the constitution, and in doing so, the governor of a state shall not abide by the advice of the council of ministers headed by chief minister. And you know, in constitution, under article 163, what you find? The governor has got certain discretionary power, and those discretionary powers are to monitor scheduled areas or scheduled tribes for the development, for their advancement, for their welfare, to establish tribal council, to give impetus to the pace of development in those areas. Similarly, under Schedule 6, which is operational in northeastern areas, under Article 244A, what are the main points of 6th schedule? That there shall be a council of ministers, a body will be constituted, whether elected or partially nominated and partially elected, to function as legislature for the autonomous region. Specify the matter related to in the state list or the concurrent list with respect of which the legislature of the autonomous state shall have the power to make laws for the whole or any part thereof, define the matter with respect to which the executive power of the autonomous state shall extend. Provide that any tax levied by the state of Assam shall be assigned to the autonomous state insofar as the proceeds thereof are attributable to the autonomous state. Provide that any reference to a state in any article of this constitution shall be construed in including reference to the autonomous state. And finally, you see that according to this provision, in matters related to Nagaland, what you find that even the act made by Parliament may not be applicable in Nagaland if it relates to the transfer of land, sale of land, or relates to custom, provided that it has to be approved by the concerning autonomous council. So you see that in spite of making our constitution a federal in structure or federal government, there are certain specific features which are non-traditional, and certain pockets like the tribal belts of northeastern areas, like the tribal belts of central Indias, where the large number of tribals are living, they have been protected by giving them guarantee under Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. So now I am switching over to another point. Are you clear? Any point from your side?
No, sir.
Abhishek?
No, sir.
Kanishka?
No, sir.
No, sir. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
Yes, sir.
Did you catch my lecture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm switching over to the composition of a state during the British period. Tell me, during the British period, how many states in British India was operating? You might be knowing that there were two sets of government during the British period. Those areas which were directly controlled by the British government were called British India, and those areas which were controlled or administered by the native kings, they were Raja or Maharaja, they were called native estate or princely estates. So during the British period in undivided India, what we find that 40% of undivided India, 40% of the land of undivided India was administered by princely estates, and rest of the land was administered by British government directly. In terms of population, 30% of the population in undivided India constitute the population of native states, and 70% of the population constituted British India. Why? Because the areas covered by native states were mostly covered with forest or infertile lands. So the density of population in native state was lesser than that of the British India. Now, in undivided India, what we find? What was the composition of the states? Can anybody tell me? Any idea, Abhishek?
Sir, no, sir, not clearly.
There were 8 states. These states were the big state regulated states, and they were Burma, Bengal, Madras, Bombay, United Province, Central Provinces and Berar, Punjab, Assam. Burma, Bengal, Madras, Bombay, United Province, Central Provinces and Berar, Punjab and Assam. You see, when Burma was separated, can anybody tell me? This question is always asked in UPSC, prelims examination. Burma was separated in 1937 from India for administrative purposes. Odisha was separated from Bihar in 1936. Bihar and Odisha were separated from Bengal in 1912. Sindh was separated from Bombay in 1936. Northwest Province was created in 1901 from the northwestern district of Punjab. These were the major divisions. Now, what were the minor provinces? There were 5 minor provinces. One was Northwest Frontier Province, which is now situated in Pakistan. Second is British Balochistan. It is also in Pakistan now. Coorg, it is now part of Karnataka. And Ajmer Merwara now forms a part of Rajasthan and Andaman Nicobar Island. Adan, you might be knowing, this was also formed a part of Indian Empire. But in 1932, in 1937, the Adan was separated from India and was made a crown colony of British. So, in time of independence, what do you find? There were 17 provinces, and these provinces were Ajmer Merwara, number 1, number 2, Andaman and Nicobar Island, number 3, Assam, number 4, Balochistan, number 5, Bengal, number 6, Bihar, number 7, Bombay, number 8, Central Provinces and Berar, number 9, Coorg, number 10, Delhi, number 11, Madras, number 12, Northwest Frontier, number 13, Panth Piploda, number 15, Punjab, number 16, Sindh, or number 17, United Provinces. Upon the partition of India upon the partition of British India into 2 countries, Pakistan and India, 11 provinces remained with us, and the rest provinces like Balochistan, Northwest Frontier and Sindh went to Pakistan, and 3 states like Punjab, Bengal and Assam, they were partitioned between India and Pakistan on the basis of religion. So, this was the composition of states when India got independence. Anybody can tell me that how many states were working during the Mughal period? Particularly during the reign of Akbar and Aurangzeb. Have you any clue?
Sir?
Yes.
So on what basis these provinces were termed major and minor?
There were 2 criteria. One was population. A minor state that I have narrated before you, they were minor in terms of population. And secondly, these provinces were administered by administrators, like today, the administrator of Chandigarh. But what I have narrated before you about the 8 states, the 8 big states, either they were governed by lieutenant governor or full-fledged governor. For example, in matters related to presidency, a state like Madras, Bombay, or Bengal, full-fledged governors were working under the Governor General. In the administration of Odisha or Bengal, those areas were governed by Lieutenant Governor. But in Coorg or Balochistan, because of their small population, those areas were governed by administrator, appointed by Governor General. Are you clear now?
Yes, sir.
Third difference was there. There were certain big states during the British period which has got legislature, like today. In 1919, the bicameral legislature were established in the big state like presidencies, you know. But in a small state, other than presidency, there were one unicameral legislature. But in matters related to very small state like Coorg or Balochistan, they had no legislature, and they were administered by an administrator like today what we see in Chandigarh or Lakshadweep or Andaman Nicobar Islands. Are you clear now?
Yes, sir.
Because the rules were framed not by the Coorg, because they had no legislature. So the government of India, the British India, and its Union Legislative Council made laws on behalf of the smaller states. And this is also the difference. I think that now you are clear.
Yes, sir.
Now, students, after independence, what was the contour of the state? Any clue? Any clue from your side? When our country became independent, when the Constitution of India became operational from 26 January 1950, the contour of our, or the composition of our states was, there were 9 states which were called A category state. I just want to clear you that there are 4 types of state at the time of the commencement of our constitution. And under the category of A state, there were 9 states. And what were these? Number 1, Assam, Bihar, Bombay, East Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, Madras, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal. As you know, that West Bengal, Punjab, or Assam, these 3 states were partitioned. So the remaining states were given the full-fledged status of a state, like West Bengal, because Eastern Bengal was carved out and became the part of Eastern Pakistan. Similarly, in the case of Punjab, 2/3 of the Punjab went to the Western Pakistan, and 1/3 of Punjab, now comprising the present day Punjab and Haryana, became the part of Indian Union. So there were 9 states falling into category number A. The second category included 8 types of states, and these states were formerly the princely states, and these states have been made by carving out or by merging a smaller princely state into one, and by this method, 8 states under category B were formed, and these were
9.
Hyderabad,
So there were 9 states.
No. 9 states in under category 1. And in category B, category 2, there were 8 states formerly called princely state. And one is number 1 Hyderabad, number 2 Jammu Kashmir, number 3 Madhya Bharat, number 4 Mysore, number 5 Patiala, number 6 Rajasthan, number 7 Saurashtra, number 8 Travancore and Cochin. In addition to category number A and B, in part C, there were 10 smaller states, and these were Ajmer, Bhopal, Bilaspur. Now Bilaspur forms part of the Himachal Pradesh state. Kurg, now under Karnataka. Delhi, Himachal Pradesh. Kutch, now forms part of Gujarat. Manipur, Tripura, Bindra Pradesh, now forms part of MP. And under category D, there were only one state, and that was Andaman Nicobar Island. Friends, you know that the Lakshadweep had been divided into 2 states by Cochin Travancore and Bombay state. Now, in 1956, and before that, you might be knowing the name of P. Sri Ramlu. P. Sri Ramlu. He died by resorting to fast unto death for 56 days. And there was a great reaction in Andhra Pradesh area, Telugu speaking areas. And so government was forced to bifurcate Madras state into 2 states. One, Madras, later on in 1969, it was renamed Tamil Nadu, and the other part were called Andhra Pradesh, having Telugu speaking area, majority Telugu speaking area. And government had to resort to form a state reorganization commission headed by Justice Fazal Ali, and its 2 other members were H.N. Kunjru and K.M. Munshi. So, yeah, K.M. Panikar. Yes, you are right. I was dotting it. You may be asked this question. So, from 1951 to 56, what we find? There are certain alterations, certain changes. And what were those changes? Before the constitution of the State Reorganization Commission, in 1954, the French enclave Chandranagar was transferred to West Bengal, or in the same year, Pondicherry, comprising the former French enclaves of Pondicherry, Karikal, Yannan and Mahe, was transferred to India, and this became the Union Territory in 1962. Also, in 1954, pro-India forces liberated the Portuguese-held enclave of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and declaring it the de facto state of India. In 1961, India annexed it as a Union Territory of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and now you see that this Union Territory has been merged with the Daman and Diu. The State Reorganization Commission, State Reorganization Act 1956 recognized the state based on linguistic line and cultural homogeneity. And as a result of this act, what were changes? What changes were done? Bombay state was split into the linguistic state of Gujarat and Maharashtra in 1960. The former Union Territory of Nagaland achieved statehood in 1st December 1963. The Punjab Reorganization Act 1966 resulted in the creation of Haryana on 1st November and the transfer of northern district of Punjab to Himachal Pradesh. The act also designated Chandigarh as a union territory and shared capital of Punjab and Haryana. Madras state was renamed Tamil Nadu in 1969. The northeastern state of Manipur, Meghalaya, Tripura were formed on 21st January 1972. Mysore state was renamed Karnataka in 1973. On 1975, Sikkim became the 22nd state of Indian Union and its state's monarchy was abolished. In 1987, Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram became the state on 20 February, followed by Goa on 30 May, while Union Territory of Goa, Daman, Diu, northern enclave of Damao and Diu became a separate union territory as Daman and Diu. In November 2000, 3 new states like Chhattisgarh from Madhya Pradesh, Uttaranchal from UP and Jharkhand from Bihar were created. In 2014, Telangana was created, a new state was created from Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha was renamed as Odisha, O-D-I-S-H-A, in 2011. Pondicherry was renamed Puducherry in 2007. These are all the important points that may be asked you in prelims examination. Or in 2019, the Parliament passed an act, and by it, Jammu and Kashmir, the state of Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated into 2 union territories, one comprising of Jammu and Kashmir area and second Ladakh. While Jammu, the legislative assemblies was kept under Jammu and Kashmir, but Ladakh will have no legislative assembly. It will have to be administered by an administrator appointed by the President of India. Similarly, Government of India merged Dadra and Nagar Haveli into Daman and Diu, effective from 26th January 2020. So, student, this is the exact description of the reorganization of a state in India, and it is still being reorganized, as you have seen in the case of Jammu and Kashmir and Telangana. Any point from anybody?
Sir, what is the reason why states are being renamed?
You see, in case of Madras, that word evokes colonial vestiges. Madras or Calcutta. Now it has been changed to Kolkata. Madras is changed to Chennai. Bombay has been changed to Mumbai. And it says that Mumba Devi, it is named after Mumba Devi. The Britishers changed into the Anglican name. So in order to exhort among people a kind of nationalism, Indians want that Indian name should be kept instead of colonial name. That is the reason behind the changing of names. You see, now yesterday Aligarh has been changed to Harinagar. What does this mean? Or Allahabad was earlier changed to Prayag. Although we all know that during the period of Harshvardhan, it was Prayag, not Allahabad. Allahabad was renamed during the period of Akbar. But with the passage of time, when we have become independent, our national sentiments has become very much strong. So we do not want that our town or city should not be named after any foreigners or any colonial masters. That should be renamed after our great men, great London men of the past or the present. That is the reason behind it.
Okay,
as far as I think. Have you any clue?
sir, I don't have any clue about this.
Okay. There may be so many explanations behind it, but I just do not want to go into details because of the obvious reason, you know. I do not want to quote controversy on that point. If you want to know in details, you can give me a ring and then I will give you details. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Now, the last point that I will cover is proposed state and union territory of India. In spite of reorganization of a state for the last 70 years, what we find that there is a clamor for more and more state in different states of India. Why? Because each and every, for example, in northeastern state, each ethnic group wants a separate state. They are not satisfied with the autonomous state council as propounded by 6th schedule. But each and every ethnic group wants their own separate state. Likewise, in other parts of the country, people clamor for separate state. Sikhs clamored for separate state where the Sikhs will remain in majority. And that's why the state of Punjab was divided into Haryana and Punjab. Similarly, on the basis of language, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu were bifurcated, and later on a new state of Telangana was carved out of the Andhra Pradesh on the ground that they are being neglected by the Andhrites, and they have got dominant position in the government, in economy, and so most of the areas lagged behind the Andhrite areas, and so they wanted a separate state, and that was effected during the last leg of the Congress government in 2014. Now, friends, there is endless clamor for separate state, like Rayalaseema state in Andhra Pradesh, Bodoland, Karbi Anglong, Dimarji, Barak state in Assam. In Bihar, there is a clamor for Mithila Raj, the area from which I belong to, and its western areas encompassing the eastern UP. They say that we will establish a state named Bhojpur. Similarly, Delhi wants independent state. It should be given the status of independent statehood. It is still a union territory. Similarly, in Gujarat, the Bhil tribals clamor for the state of Bhilistan. People of Saurashtra want a separate state from Gujarat. In Karnataka, people of Kodagu, people of Tululand, people of Karuland, they want separate state. That means Karnataka should be divided into 3 parts. Similarly, in Madhya Pradesh, people of Baghelkhand, Bundelkhand, Vindhya Pradesh, Mahakosal, Gondwana, Malwa, Rewakhand, they all are raising their hands for separate statehood. In Maharashtra, there is a long demand for the state of Vidarbha, having the headquarters or capital at Nagpur. In Meghalaya, Garo people want a separate state of Garoland from Meghalaya. Chakma tribals want a separate state from Mizoram. Similarly, in Uttar Pradesh, there is demand for division of the whole UP into 4 parts because of its unwieldy area and resided by different cultural groups. And so they want Awadh Pradesh, Braj Pradesh, Bundelkhand or Purvanchal. Similarly, in West Bengal, Gorkha Nepalis want a separate state from West Bengal. The tribals of Jangal Mahal, adjacent to Jharkhand, want a separate state of Jangal Mahal. So there is endless demand for separate statehood. Students, you know why there is so much clamor for separate statehood? Because you see that in our country, with after independence, what you see, there is a kind of regional disparity at two levels. One is intra-regional disparity and another is inter-regional disparity. What does this mean? You see, the level of development is very much different from one state to another state. For example, the level of development of Bihar is very much slow in comparison to the most advanced state of Maharashtra or Punjab. Similarly, there is also an intra disparities in the state. For example, if you see the map of UP, what we find? The west of Allahabad, that is western UP, the area and the people have become very much richer after the independence. Because of the green revolution in western UP, the income of average farmers have gone 10 times more than what it happened to be during the period of independence. But what is the fate of the people living in eastern UP? They are poor. 4 to 5 months, their lands are submerged into water on account of recurring floods in those areas. People flee away from eastern UP to other parts of the country in search of employment. So, the only one example I have cited before you. And what does it mean? That there is a problem of inter-regional disparity plus intra-regional disparities in the state. And that's why people of those areas who perceive that they have been left in the process of development, they just want a share in the resources of governance, and that's why they want a separate for them. And this is the reason for the creation of so many states after independence, except in the case of northeastern areas where ethnicity plays bigger role than the economic disparities. So, students, I think that I have completed my lecture today. Any point if you want to raise before me, you can ask. Kanishka?
No, sir.
Are you satisfied with my lecture?
Yes, sir.
Any point from your side that you can add?
No, sir.
Abhishek Sharma?
No, sir.
Have you read this chapter?
Yes, sir.
You must read the book written by D.D. Basu. That is an excellent book for those students who are preparing for UPSC examinations. You can also read the book written by Lakshmikant, but the book written by D.D. Basu is far superior to the book written by Lakshmikant.
Okay, sir.
Or Athar,
No, sir.
did you understand what I have delivered before you?
Yes.
Okay. Now after 15 minutes, I will start question answer session. Be prepared for that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.